Okay, I gotta pee real quick, actually. Should I leave on for a sec? Sorry, I should have done this when I was making the sandwich, but...
Women, they don't want to stay at home when you pull them. They just
Whoa.
want flexible working hours and flexible working conditions
Whoa.
like you have. And I think we should all advocate for that. It's not one or the other. But when you sit here and you go, you'll be more fulfilled doing this and spend all your time doing that. We would love for you to leave the public eye and go focus on what makes you fulfilled.
Okay. Hi, my name is Candace Owens. I am a podcaster, a mother, a wife, and also the author of the upcoming book, Make Him a Sandwich. And today I am surrounded by 20 feminists. My first claim is that the sexual revolution has devalued women and made them infinitely less happy.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, I'm Samaya.
Samaya, nice to meet you. I'm Candace.
Nice to meet you too. So my question for you is, statistics show that 60% of women who are murdered by their intimate partners, murdered by someone that they are in close relations with. That's according to the UN from 2023.
Yeah.
So how is it that, women are so valued, quote unquote, in the home, and yet that's the place where they're at the most danger?
Okay, so I'm not sure what that has to do with the sexual revolution.
Right, the sexual revolution.
The first claim.
The sexual revolution gave.
I'm happy to answer it. I'm just saying that, if you broaden that statistic, you are more likely in general just to be murdered by somebody you know. So, of course.
But men are much less likely to be murdered by, their
That's not
partners.
true.
Yes,
it
is.
Yeah, I'm sure, because men are less likely to be murdered by women. Full stop.
Yeah,
exactly. So that statistic makes sense to me. I'm still not sure how this correlates to whether or not the sexual revolution
increased women's ability to leave the house, women's ability to control their own reproductive capabilities, women's ability to, control their own capacity within the workforce in regards to their own sexual capacity. So it is the very fact that the sexual revolution happened that made our access to the workplace much more, or just the public sphere in general, much more easy. So, without the sexual revolution, women would be much more confined to the place where they're at the most danger. Isn't that true?
So you think that, just so I'm trying to understand your argument here, you think that if we didn't have the sexual revolution, less women or more women would be murdered? Are you saying that women are
more women would be murdered, for sure.
Okay, I disagree with that. I still don't think it has anything to do with the claim that women are infinitely less happy because of the sexual revolution, which has devalued women.
I think you'd probably be less happy if you're being murdered.
Oh.
Anyone disagree?
Okay, yeah, okay. There is definitely a correlation between personal relationships and domestic violence. And just to be clear, if we're talking about just a monogamous relationships, the most violent relationships that are on the books are between lesbian partners. Yes, when people are intimate, that is actually true.
No, the statistic you're talking about is people who have faced domestic violence. Lesbians, yes, are more likely to have faced domestic violence, but that's because they typically came from relationships with men in which they were mistreated.
Lesbian relationships are the most violent relationships that we have on the books.
But we can move on.
They can fact check that claim. The point being is that it's not exactly a stunning statistic to say that when people are in relationships, period, whether those relationships are homosexual, whether they're married,
you're saying that the sexual revolution...
Let me finish. I've let you try to explain how this is correlated to happiness, and I don't think it does. I actually think you're having a different debate right now. But yes, absolutely, it makes perfect sense that you are more likely in general when you are in a relationship, because people are driven by anger by people that they know, whether or not we're talking about boyfriend and girlfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend, a husband and a wife, a husband and a husband, or a wife and a wife. Yes, of course, the instances of domestic violence are going to take place when you're inside of a home. But the sexual revolution, encouraging women to give up their goods for free, which is what I'm speaking about, and encouraging men not to marry these women or to have long-term relationships, what I am saying is a direct contributor to their unhappiness, because women are giving up their goods for free, and women are now entering the workplace, and that does not actually make them happy.
Okay, pause. Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Hello.
Hi there.
How are are you? I'm Candace.
Nice to meet you. Julian, my pronouns are they, them. It's very interesting to think of it when we just think about the gender binary. It's, how do we place value on human beings in general? And so when we think about, placing value, that comes from a place of power, right? So I think let's select like the Victorian era. You have this dominant group of people coming from white supremacy, deciding who gets to have a proper status in the world. And so that is already like taking human beings and devaluing them. And so what the sexual revolution did was to help people seek out empowerment, which increased value, no matter the gender. So when it comes to sexual revolution, let's look at one contribution is sex education. I'm actually an educator. I teach sociology and LGBTQ studies. And I have absolutely seen the positive outcome with the sexual revolution and sex education and seen people empower themselves. And with that comes safety when it comes to decreasing STIs, abuse, sexual assault. Again, people get to empower themselves of all genders. And I know earlier you mentioned about violence amongst lesbians and sapphic community, which I do identify within. All genders can be.
Thank you, Hussy. The 3.
Jet Set Radio. I should send $3.
Dude, what the fuck? Dude, stop sending in porn! Dude, why can't we just support the show normally, Why can't the show just be, like, bankrolled, like, at normal, sort of, like everyone else's shows? No, I don't know. They get sent fucked up stuff, too. Why? What's wrong? What is going on in your head? What's broken inside of your skull?
Be subjected to violence.
That was the point I was making. So I wasn't sure of how her claim was relating to what we were talking about, whether or not it makes
anyway,
people
back to Candace
happy
Owens.
or unhappy. Relationships are obviously a ground where there can be violence.
I guess I could just wrap it up by saying, like, if we all have access to like sex education through the incredible work of feminists through the sexual revolution, we are able to gain access to information and gain skills to create an equitable society, egalitarian within our relationships, whether it be platonic or romantic. I'm so grateful for those feminists who have fought for us, so we can gain those spaces and create a healthier society.
Okay, are you a believer in the government doing everything that it can to make people happy?
So when it comes, as someone that teaches in the public sector, I understand the concern when it comes to like, what is a teacher, what kind of information they're providing to the students. I do believe that we, as a teacher, I should be able to give that sort of information. Again, I teach.
Dude, the black baddie's pissed.
A teacher, I should be able to give that sort of information.
Again, I teach
college students. One of my claims is I believe that we should mandate sex education amongst college students. So yes, I do want the state, I would like the government to give us those resources so we can implement that curriculum.
Okay, you consider yourself a feminist?
Take a haircut. I got to get one of those.
Queer feminist. There's variations, right?
What is a queer feminist?
Jason Momoa cosplay. Says Baby Nugget is doing a Jason Momoa cosplay.
Opposed to a feminist, just so I understand.
Well, so I heavily believe in queer theory. So, the gender binary that we understand, it comes from colonization. So someone who is mixed race, family from Mexico, we have the Muxés in Mexico, which is an indigenous tribe. They believed in gender fluidity. And then you have European colonizers coming who dismantle that. And now everything that we understand when it comes to gender is a Western lens. So from a queer...
So you don't even think women exist, I'm guessing.
I think everyone should be empowered to figure out their identity and explore the language that best describes themselves. So freedom, America, right? America, freedom. And I want to believe in that when it comes to identity. Everyone should have the freedom to decide how they want to identify, as long as they're not causing harm. But that's where we get into the debate, what is harm?
So just... Again, to be clear, to go back to this claim, we are debating female happiness. You are saying you do not identify as a female.
I identify with all gender expressions, so from masculinity to femininity.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, are you just saying that as a part of queer theory, you're debating whether or not women are happier after the sexual revolution? I'm just trying to understand, because it seems like you're debating queer theory as opposed to female.
Or whatever.
All genders benefit from the sexual revolution.
Been voted out by the majority.
That's
Please
a
return to your
groiper.
seat.
That's my groiper. Woo! Wow, they is beautiful.
Hello.
I'm Zena.
Zena. Very much like your name.
Thank you
It's
so much. Nice to
Zena.
meet you.
Can we start with the
Wait. Is that the one that refused to debate Nick? Or is that a different one?
beginning? Do you identify as a female?
I identify as a woman, yeah.
Okay. There
Right.
we go.
So I do want to get back to your premise. You're saying that women have been devalued, right, by the sexual revolution.
No,
this
there's a different one.
of presumes two things.
Different one,
that
different one.
There has been a loss of worth, right, for women. So you're saying that women have, as human beings, lost worth. Women who, prior to their sexual revolution, were worth more than women today.
I would say that, yes, women have devalued themselves by becoming overtly sexual. That's my claim. So, I mean, also according to just, and let's not remove this from the other part of the claim, which that it has made women infinitely less happy.
Right. So are you saying, but you're saying that according to you, women have been devalued?
Not according to me. According to the time in which people are getting married, how difficult it is for people to find a partner that's willing to commit to them. And I think that's in large part due to the fact that women are offering sex for free because it was a major component of the sexual revolution was this idea.
So a woman's worth is tied to her sexuality?
It's not tied to, well, absolutely. If you're going to be having multiple partners, you are going to be devaluing yourself.
You're worth less
Yeah,
as a human being.
Not as a human being, just, in terms of trying to have a partnership and a productive relationship, certainly men are not going to be clamoring to have a relationship with somebody when there's the market is throwing them.
A man's response to your actions is what defines your worth, right?
Yeah, well, I would say that I would argue
Dude, this
that
sucks!
what makes women
Dude,
actually
this
happy
is
is
snoozer.
family. So if you're interrupting, so just to connect the dots for you.
Bitch on the right is way badder than Candace, though. I'm not gonna lie.
When women
Right.
are
Amen.
having
Right.
sex with multiple partners, it devalues them for men, right?
For men. So,
yes. So
men define a woman's worth.
Well, I would say both of them kind of define one another's worth because I think the ultimate goal for people to be happy is actually family.
Okay, so you're saying
Not work.
in all cases, a woman is going to be more fulfilled in regards to family. Like
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And this is going to work in all cases. You're saying there's no individual case in which a woman can feel, fulfilled without being tied to other people in the case of family.
I think there could be an exceptional case for everything. I think there are exceptional cases, but I think that if we all start trying to be the exception as opposed to recognizing the rule, which is that people in life...
San, fact check. There's conflicting research on this topic. Pew Research found that a higher percentage of adults want a career or close friends to be fulfilled compared to kids or for marriage. While the Institute of Family Studies found married men and women are happier than their unmarried counterparts, largely because they have a family support system.
Are more fulfilled when they achieve a
So
family
who's
unit,
right?
And when
Download the SAN app for unbiased, fact-based news.
they have children, women in particular, especially aspiring to children, then you are going to end up with a bunch of people who are unhappy because your job cannot replace the feeling of having a family.
So what you're saying is we need to look at every individual case and see what is going to fulfill you or what is going to, I guess, essentially predict your happiness more. Because if we look at, for example, the Nordic countries, right? These are countries, I'm talking about like Sweden, Denmark, right? These countries—
The Aryan countries.
I think in the past 14 years, they've been ranked as the highest in happiness and marital satisfaction from women, right? And we see that they also have been the most open in regards to sexual norms and sexual roles, right? So, and we also see that there's less rates of STDs reported. We see more, and
Dude, they're fact-checking everything. It's true that Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, Norway consistently rank highest in World Happiness Report because it's awesome to be white. Because hashtag, it's awesome to be white.
less rates of STDs
Nordic countries do have low rates of STDs, including HIV, according to a study in the National Library of Medicine.
reported. We see more, and that's also due to comprehensive sex education that's pushed in those countries. So we see that and that's a direct result of the sexual revolution, right? So when we're seeing that direct reports of happiness, right, we don't have these same rates in America. In these countries that are more sexually open, why would we see those rates in those type of countries?
So I think you might be referring to this sort of mass-produced study that was a part of a behavioral science study, which said that women were the happiest women in the world were women that were actually unmarried and had careers. No. Okay. Well, there was
reported happiness.
Okay, sure. I'm talking about the same thing. It was reported happiness, but it could be there's tons of studies. The point being is that in 2023, there was this massive scandal where they recognize that a lot.
Captive dreamers posting porn? Dude, why is everyone so horny today? The numerology would not suggest that everyone should be horny today. What's going on? Anybody know? Why is everyone so, for real, why is everyone so like ready to fuck, you know? Every day is a 5-day on the Jay-Z. Well, no, it's not even just us. This debate was better with porn playing on it. Where's the porn? Show me. Okay, what? Seriously, everyone is just clamoring for pornography today. Pull that shit up. I haven't jerked off in 24 hours. Impossible mode. Possible challenge. Don't jerk off for 24 whole hours.
A lot of these studies that were being produced, behavioral science was proven to be a complete fraud, and they were unable to reproduce these studies, and they also found that the data had.
Fact check. In 2023, Harvard investigated Dr. Francesca Sino for fraud. She was accused of manipulating data in 4 papers published from 2012 to 2020. She was investigated by the university and suspended without pay. School is trying to revoke her tenure.
Been faked. The data that we can look at that I think shows, and you can let me know if you agree with this, if women, and under the imagination of the feminist umbrella, were really unhappy when they were in the home, and then entering the workforce has made women happier and infinitely feeling more secure about themselves.
Hey, yo, John McGroiper, welcome back.
Subscribed on Kick.
Now level 8 Jughead, I appreciate it. Big shout out. Thank you so much for the continued support. Power Channel Live Session, if anyone wants to support the show, keep it on the air. If you want to go extra long, if you want it to exist, if you enjoy it, if it brings value to your day, or gift subs. Either way, if you want to be on the leaderboard, gift subs. It resets to the monthly sub resets tomorrow. The monthly leaderboard. So, but yeah, thank you so much. Big shout out. Currently, JDI is in first place, followed by Linux Mints in second, Slay in third, then Posty, Jemmy, Stummy, Stank Snatcher, EBDB, and Steel Respector, and G Vance Grouper. Ooh.
We could, I think, reasonably expect that there would have been a decrease in suicide rates amongst women.
You would have to go ahead and show how that correlation, right, is going to be a direct cause of women going into the workforce.
Okay, well, how can we, let's measure, then you have to give me a way that we can measure happiness. How can we measure happiness? So I would say suicide rates would be a good thing to look at. Drug, alcohol consumption would be a good thing
right? But we would have to, we can say, I can say at this point in
society,
I don't
bitches you got sucking on your dick.
There's a lot of things that we need to reconcile to society.
That's what I'm getting at.
Right,
so
but we have to look at the cause, right? Why are these things predicted?
Thank you, Hussy.
And
what's all this?
I should send $3.
What's this? What did bro send in? Was this a Mogger video? Was he about to Mog us? Mog! He's so hot! Oh fuck, he's so hot! Hog! Hoggers! Is this real life? Is that really happening? No way. Does he really look like that? How does jaw get like that? How's he so mugger? Damn. It's AI calling it now, dude. Finally something to jerk to. Yeah, this show's been light on that so far. Finally something hot. Okay. Back to Candace Owens. Dude, this is boring. Am I crazy or is this boring?
Men, there are a lot of things we can look at, right? That tend to predetermine suicide, right? But we can't say, oh, these two things are happening at the same time. This caused this other thing.
Yes, that's right. But I do think that we can objectively say that women who are committing suicide rates more than they were in the 1950s, like it has actually increased marginally.
Anything fun
That's
happened?
not a sign that
no crew will give women as much
the workforce
joy.
Suddenly made us
How
all
is
very
it
happy.
a cause of the workforce?
We're also
Dude, look, we got triggered feminists.
As a woman, what period of time do you want to go back to?
Just as a woman, I think that it was probably a better environment for women when we were we understood
Enslaved.
that raising our children was
Sorry, I mean, not able to vote.
fulfilling.
But some
when we were
women
at
still
home.
do understand that.
Right. And
A
that's-
lot of
that-
women
and
still
I'm one of
understand
them.
that. And I'm here advocating for you
Okay.
to be able to live
With
the
Zach
life that
and
you
Cody's
want,
mom.
and for other women to be able to live the lives they want.
Do you have children?
No.
Okay. You have a career, I presume?
Yeah,
Okay. What do you work at? What field do you work in?
I do hair.
Okay. Wonderful. So I have both.
Dude, but why she got none though? But then why doesn't she have any?
Children and a career, as somebody pointed out. And so the fact that I'm saying that you will be infinitely more fulfilled at the end of the day by raising your children than you will be if you come home and you say, wow, I really crushed it dyeing somebody's hair
Dude, she's
today.
got 2 boys.
What is it
they're
exactly that makes
making
you
Mr.
angry about
Mosby's
this?
life
That's not-
hell.
I'm trying-
Nothing makes
I'm
me
trying to
angry.
get.
No,
I'm
that's
trying
just
to
it.
get to
You
the.
know
what?
I'm
Right?
trying
No,
to get
but
to the
that's-
implicit
but
revolution.
That's the thing
He's
is
got
that no one
twins.
is
Someone mentions
angry.
children.
No, see, no one's angry when you mention children. I get angry, I guess, when you mention that someone should have a children or you're trying to impose a lifestyle.
Mr. Mosby wishes that she would have.
Should have sent $3.
Focus
They
on
would
her
never have Nick
career.
on the show.
They would never have Nick on this show because of the freak. You think I'm owned by the Jews, so I would never have Nick on the JZE? Really? You'd be right. You'd be right. I don't want to get canceled. I'm too afraid to get canceled. Have in mind. Sad but true. Thank you, Chud. Big shout out. I appreciate it. We're now 65% of the way through the Donut Gold Power Chat live session. JimboZoomer if you want to support the show. Okay.
Style onto people that you want to live, which I think is kind of funny because as someone who's anti-feminism, you practice it more than most women do. I mean, every time you get on your podcast, every time you collect a check, you're practicing feminism.
Okay, that's what you think.
No, that's what it is. Because
actually,
without feminism,
yeah.
you wouldn't be able to exist.
Yeah, people keep saying. I hate when people say that.
But
because
it's
it
true.
just shows that you haven't done the research to even understand where the
True.
Or you don't know
came from,
history.
which was discovered. That's what I'm saying about you, because it means that you don't understand that a bunch of
Mugged.
government officials in the
Mugged.
CIA funded the feminist movement. So for all of your hatred for the
I'm
patriarchy,
so confused.
and
So
speaking
my
about
question
men,
is it bad that they funded it or bad that it just happened?
Men wanted women to go into the workforce. The government, which had a lot of men, it was being.
Are
run
you
by
talking about
men.
because World War II occurred and we had to
No,
go
I'm
to
talking about-
factories, and then when we left the factories, they forced us back into
What?
the homes?
That's not what I'm saying at all. So let me tell you what
We
I'm
already
saying.
lost
You can
Eminem to
respond it.
canceling. We can't lose JZE yet.
Gloria Steinem is
True.
considered to be a feminist icon, right? Because she led these protests.
Dude, Candace
She
is low
also
key
had
in
a bunch-
shambles right now, right? She's like, now she's saying, well, the patriarchy made us all go to work. Now she's saying the patriarchy that you guys don't like made us go to work. So, but then it's like, okay, but you're in favor of the patriarchy. But then also, how are you allowed to do your show if you're a feminist? Then why are you outspoken on political issues? And why do you have a big, loud black mouth, you know? No offense, respectfully. But that's a good question. I mean, that's a fair point. I think if you're going to say, well, you're against feminism and civil rights, but you vote and you speak your opinion and you are a loud-ass black lady, right? I don't know. She's kind of being taken apart.
bunch of music festivals. She got students involved. It is just a fact that Gloria Steinem was funded by the CIA, okay? The CIA, being the male-dominated CIA of the 50s and the 60s, funded those movements. So what do you think was the explicit aim? Do you think it was because the government really wanted you to be more free, that they wanted to encourage women to enter
Well,
the
I have to be honest with
workforce?
you, I couldn't speak on behalf of the government.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And what their intention
Well, I think it's important
was
because you
with
just said that I don't know history, and I think it's pretty
Is
important.
the government in the room with us right now? Wait, no, that's the ugly
That
bitch.
I don't know history, and I think
That's the ugly bitch. Okay. Sorry to that first black girl for even, for a second, mixing you up with that one. Holy shit, she looks so fucking bad. Dude, but that other black girl was looking kind of good though,
I think
right?
it's pretty important if you're going to sit across from me and say I don't know history, that you
Yeah,
learn a
but-
piece of history and then question as
You keep bringing up men, and I think it's funny because we should talk about men more. Like you brought up suicide, they're 4 times
What's
more
her
likely to kill
necklace say?
themselves.
which is why I don't
And while
believe-
women, we're twice as more often on antidepressants, but that's because we go out and do what we need to do to keep coping.
because we're not happy.
And we need to focus on men and the patriarchy because it's actually oppressed them just as much
What does
as
your
women
necklace
now
say?
emotionally, right? Because when we're kids, our parents teach us Jesus had to cross the street. Look both ways so you can get the other side unharmed. When a boy comes across a feeling, and I'm using men and boys here because they're the ones suffering, women are too, but emotionally. When they come across a feeling they haven't felt before, we have to teach them how to get to the other side and cope with it. Otherwise, they stay where they are. That anger and resentment builds. That's the feeling they become most comfortable with. That's the feeling they go to first in most situations. So we need to stop telling our boys that they don't cry, because they do. They just do it alone, and then they become even more alone.
They all said, fuck this bitch. Get off the stage.
All right. Jasmine, nice to meet you. Okay, so
Dude, those are
you say that
humongo.
women are more fulfilled at home with kids than going out into the workforce and getting educated, but that just really doesn't
give us that
bear
side
out when
shot.
you
Come
look
on.
at the stats, when you look at how working mothers are way less likely to be in poverty. Maternal education is the #1 predictor of childhood outcomes, better scores, getting higher incomes in the future, fewer behavioral problems, better mental health. So it's weird to me and college-educated women are least likely to get divorced, and they're the only women, the top 10% of women are the only women whose marriage rates are going up. So they're getting married, they're staying married, and their kids are doing better. When you look at stay-at-home mothers, you see that they're more likely to report being depressed, they're more likely to report having anxiety and anger and all these types of things.
Give us the side shot.
So how can you say that? Seems like a woman, if you want to get married and have kids, you should go to college and have a career.
So it sounds to me like we are looking at totally different statistics, because everything that you said, I've actually read the exact opposite.
I'm glad we're on a fact check show with you.
Right, exactly.
Oh, it's so exciting.
That's going to be amazing. Okay, because I know, like I said, I
Holy dude, that's insane. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Those are bigger than I even thought.
What we're talking about is that there was this widespread report on female happiness, and I know that it was formally debunked, and it was spread.
That's not what I'm talking about. Pew Research,
right?
In fact, working mothers today spend more time with their children than women did in the 1960s that were at home.
Okay, well, women that are at home are obviously spending more time with their children than the people who are at work.
And their children are not faring off any better, and they're faring off worse.
How are you measuring their children faring off worse?
How likely they are to higher incomes, better scores, fewer health problems, fewer behavioral issues, and better mental.
So the just to get back to the claim that I'm making here is that
she just
it is obvious that women
Candace
who
up.
have children are going to be more fulfilled.
How is that obvious? Because you said so?
No, it's not obvious because I said so.
Candace is being mobbed right now by feminists.
Of women who are choosing not to have families.
Feminists are low-key mogging.
The person who just sat here before you mentioned.
And tit mogging.
They are suffering from more depression. They're suffering from more anxiety.
And that's not true.
Okay, it is true. It is actually true that women who are
fact check. Recent data on this topic is scarce, but the CDC data shows that from 2015 to 18, women were more likely to take antidepressants than men. And antidepressant use was more common among those with college degrees.
Using their careers over starting families are finding themselves leaning more onto medicines like Xanax, anxiety-inducing medicines, and depression, because they suspended that time frame where women really should be looking to find a partner and to start a family, because they were instead pursuing their careers.
And why are they better off?
It is a dishonest. It is
Then why
totally
are
a
her boobs
dishonest
so
narrative
big?
that men and women
Why are
want
they
the same
so
things out of life.
gigantic?
We don't. We absolutely do not want the same things out of life. In fact, we
They
don't even
handpacking the shit out of candy.
measure.
Bad.
We don't even measure success the same.
Bad.
Men and women don't even measure success the same.
So,
okay?
but tell me how the women who are working and getting educated, why are they faring off better in all of these?
I am telling you that I do not believe they are faring off better in all of these measures.
Because of what?
I am telling you that we are looking at totally opposite statistics. Like, so you're sitting here telling me that the statistics show that women who are working are producing better children, but I am saying that women that grow up in a two-family home where the mother stays at home are faring off better than the children who are being raised in an environment
where the women are working,
where both of the parents are
why don't
working
you
away
stay
from the home. I do get to work from home.
No, but
that's the irony.
I mean,
That's
I've
why
watched your show.
I'm
You talk about all the nannies you hire, and it's so hard to find a good nanny.
I talked about all of the nannies I hire.
Yeah, you have.
I spoke about how difficult it was to find a babysitter who knew how to cook a meal, and that's because
you don't need a babysitter. You're already. You could retire right now.
You have to let people respond to you when they're speaking.
You don't want to.
Dude, those are gigantic though, for real. That is ridiculous, right?
Let people respond to you when they're speaking.
You don't want to.
to respond to you when
No, you don't want to. You want to be working, which is great.
You're telling me what I want now.
Holy shit!
Wait, you don't want to work?
Those are insane.
You've said so many words that what you're trying to do here, like your argument style, is I'm going to say so much and not let her get a word in, and then walk away and feel like I've won. We're not having a conversation because you've not letting me respond to either one of your points.
She wins, and she
what
wins.
I'm saying to you, first to answer what you just said, which was a lie.
And she beat Candace. I'm sorry, Candy. It's over.
Increasingly difficult to find a 25-year-old who even knows how to make boxed macaroni and cheese, right? And that's crazy. That is in large part due to feminism. Women don't even focus. Like there's this idea that women shouldn't be cooking. Like there's something fundamentally wrong with women even learning how to cook.
Are you
know what I mean?
spending as much time with your children as you possibly can? Because that's the way to get the most fulfillment.
No, and that's what I'm trying to say. I am speaking to you
as. Then stop.
Okay, could you please let somebody get in
I
word
did.
edgewise?
I let you finish.
You're not. You
I
actually
did.
have not let anybody
Out.
finish. Like I said, it's no one benefits when you're just speaking over me and not allowing me to respond. All you're proving is that you have an attitude and you believe in feminism, but you're not. That's what I'm saying. You just have an attitude, and it's not cute. It's performative.
I'm actually address my point. I will be quiet if you address my point.
Does anybody actually feel here that I am being allowed to address any of her points when she just keeps running over me? Like I'm literally trying to answer your first point of you saying that I don't stay at home. Fair point. Really weird. Fair point. Obviously, I get that you're all anti-Candace and pro-feminist, but also it's not productive if you're not actually.
Okay, address the point. You spend more time saying that I'm not addressing, that you don't have a chance to talk. The whole time you could have addressed the point.
Okay.
Then you do with your kids.
Go for it.
Just want you to know that you're not coming across as somebody who wants to actually have a conversation. So to get back to the claim, because I don't even know where you're at. You're now talking. You're saying that I said stuff in my podcast.
I'll go wherever you want to go.
I never said.
I'll go wherever.
So do you want to start with me working at home? Because I work at home. You just said something about me working at home.
You travel all around the world.
Okay,
you do speeches, and I love that. I love how ambitious you are. That's
Feminism
a really
has
great
made
trait,
things
and you
easier for men.
Said that you would be more fulfilled. Now, one thing you do.
This is okay for them to choose. There's more women in STEM. There's more lawyers. There's more women. Women are making up strides
that's why law
to
is
those
so
positions.
awesome.
So it's not like they're
And
sedentary
science,
and they're
too.
staying in these humanities or.
Because unfortunately our greatest predator is men. Our greatest harm does come from men. And
The greatest predator on earth is men. Holy True.
When women have experienced violence from men, when women have experienced oppression from men, I'm not going to fault them for feeling that way and expressing such. And I think the onus does rely more on men for acknowledging that these issues do exist. It is harming women. And unfortunately, a lot of men don't listen to women and they actually would rather listen to other men. While that may seem like negative messaging, if we can get past the idea of, oh, this feels like it's attacking my character, like I feel like feminism is attacking me as a man, then I think that we can have a much more productive discussion and move forward in making sure that this society is better for everybody. And I do believe that feminism benefits men as well. And I think that's also misunderstood and misinterpreted in that.
Look at this dumbass.
And when
look at her stupid, ugly face.
Milky. Oh, milky. I want the milk. I have PP.
I have PP. Yeah, true. What? Yeah, facts, Morty. You could say that again. Thank you for the very generous support. We're now 67% of the way through the donut goal. Power Chat Live / JimboZoomer if you want to extend the show, make it go extra long, or gift subs. I'll count those too. Mod, spam the link in the chat over and over and over again, please.
You have a society and a culture that encourages women to do what they want, how
Look
they
at this
want,
stupid
in a way
bitch.
that is safe and healthy. You will see that women
Fuck off.
can do it all, as she said, and be happy. I don't think that you have to choose between having kids and having a career. And I think that that is like a fundamentally misleading argument.
I guess I would just say we all agree that sandwiches are good. We just disagree on who should be making them.
Okay, that was bad. That was unironically bad, but these were kind of awesome though. But she was kind of cooking with these, right? Like, this is, like, insane. Oh, my gosh. Where do they find these bitches? They're literally booking them off OnlyFans. Like, they're... Holy shit. All right, next. What else we got?